It's a kind of an interesting experiment. All right. Rira Bingshi Ninde Gambadi Sangye Shindu Nide Ulangi Droku Namda Shinla Jupasho Iram Guru Ratna Mandala Kamya Yatayami Sangye Chedam Toki Chonama Chanchu Badu Dagni Kapsuchi Daki Chunyen Gipe Sunamki Drona Penchir Sangye Dupasho Sangye Chodam Soki Chonamla Chanchu Badu Dagni Kapsuchi Daki Chunyen Gipe Sunamki Rola Penchir Sangye Drupasho Sangye Chodam Toki Chonamla Chanchu Badu Dagni Kapsuchi Daki Chunyen Gipe Sunamki Rola Penchir Sangye Drupasho Smoky Doki. Si, senor. There goes my yoga.
I'm hiding this from you.
Do you see who's behind you? The other way.
Hey! He broke his hand in a garage door.
I wanted to say hey, but I didn't want to interrupt.
Hi, handsome.
Good to see you.
I told you not to hit your wife. She bites. Okay.
She's a boxer.
Thank you for coming. I hope you're okay. Looks pretty impressive. My mom broke her wrist 2-3 days ago.
Oh no!
And they said you're too old to give anesthesia.
No.
So they wrapped it in a cast, and then they went. And they said you're gonna scream for a while. She said okay. She's tough.
Yeah.
And then they did an X-ray. They said, oh, it's perfect.
So, I can picture her just being fine.
She's really funny. Anyway, yeah, so we had 2 people do it. Welcome back, Adam.
Yay.
I told V you gotta learn to type with your nose, or teach Gracie to take dictation. Okay.
Yeah, teach Gracie.
Can you tell the commander what you're up to in your text?
Oof.
And think about it. Like if you were gonna present it to a sponsor, for
with
example.
no notice in Taiwan.
Exactly.
to just teach about it. Like what happened.
How would you teach it to someone who didn't know much about this text?
There's an old book by Arya Nagarjuna called The 60 Verses on Reasoning. In that, it's 61 verses. And in that book, he's arguing to the lower way. He's trying to prove emptiness, our version of emptiness to them, using their reasoning. And in this book that that he's translating, that I'm trying to translate, is by Gyaltsab J. And so he's pretty tough. So it's confusing. It's his commentary on the 60 Verses on Reasoning by Nagarjuna. And so where we're at...
That's what I really want you to talk about.
Yeah. I know I was stalling so that I could try to...
No, I think it's interesting where you're at.
Where we're at now is amazing because he was talking about whether or not there's a mind, the direct perception of emptiness. Mm-hmm. And he started debating that, the famous Chinese master who said there's no mind, and there was a really interesting discussion going back and forth about whether there is a mind or not. And then where we're at now, he just segued into the differences between the upper and lower parts of the middle way school. And it's fascinating. So he listed 10 differences, and then in the end of last term we made an appendix that has all these different presentations of the differences between the upper and lower middle way schools, which are totally interesting, and some of them are kind of hard to understand because I think they're based on 10 years of prior study of middle way philosophy. But it's really cool stuff.
Good. Yeah, so one of the most important subjects of all of Buddhism is why did the middle way school break into two halves? And to put it simply, the lower middle way school is a 50-50 school. What's that mean?
I think things are 50% out there and 50%.
Yeah, they think that 50% of reality is incoming and 50% of reality is coming from me. And somewhere we meet in the middle. That would be kind of a psychological school. The way I feel about this song, it depends on many factors in my mind. But it's definite that the song itself is not coming from me. So you get this feeling that I'm interpreting the world in different ways. And if I was in a really good mood, if I had some good coffee that didn't have spoiled half and half, I would, just kidding, don't drink it. Then I would, if I had had a really good coffee, the whole world would look brighter. No, I have one. No, I gotta have half and half, that's the thing. So, that's the lower middle way. Higher middle way?
The higher middle way is that everything's name and a label. So
100%
yeah.
coming from me. A big difference, okay? Huge difference. And then that leads to a list of 8 classic differences between the two schools, okay? And a lot of it has to how do they prove emptiness. And if you understand, Tsongkhapa said, if you understand those 8, you understand Buddhism. So, Gyaltsab Je, he's on another subject. He's talking about something else. And then suddenly he says, at this point, I shall indulge in a slight digression and explain the ideas which distinguish the consequence group from the independent group. You know, he's just like, hey, how about I give you a nice teaching on this? Because the book was about how the Buddha did teach emptiness to lower way schools, Hinayana schools, but they didn't get it. You see what I mean? So Nagarjuna spends a whole book, 60 verses, is devoted to proving why the Buddha did teach emptiness in the Abhidharma Sutras and things like that. The full emptiness, but they didn't get it. How did Nagarjuna interpret the third turning of the wheel?
As figurative.
When the Buddha explained what he really meant in the third turning of the wheel, he was defending Prasangika. It's not that he invented mind-only school. You see?
Where does he say that, and when do we get this mental?
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah, Buddha did write that book called What I Really Meant, but he was talking about Prasangika. Okay, so it's kind of so I was talking with Nick that a good presentation on those 8 would be more valuable than the book we're working on. You see? And if you take those 8 and make a very sexy appendix, which is complete, people who know both of them, they will consider the appendix more valuable than the book. The book is extremely valuable, but the appendix would be more valuable. So we started off on an appendix, and we worked on it quite a lot. So I don't know how many pages it is. How many pages is it?
Oh, it's not too long yet, maybe page 6 or 7.
We took a different list from different people, because they're slightly different. The lists are slightly different. And we worked on it a lot, many hours. And then I'm not satisfied with it. I look at it and I say, it mentions the differences, but it doesn't explain them. You know, so my proposed strategy, he explains his own list of 10. He's got more than other people. He wrote a separate book about the 8. He wrote a whole book about the 8.
Yeah.
We should look at how long that book is.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be an appendix.
Yeah.
He wrote his own book about the differences.
It's in the appendix.
He wrote a separate book about it, but it's also called Notes, so it could be Tsongkhapa.
But the notes.
Even the 8 is called Notes.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'd have to read it. We're planning another appendix also, right?
Yes.
Because no, Gyaltsab Je attended a lecture by Tsongkhapa on this text, and he wrote his notes, and they still exist.
On this table.
We were gonna on the 60 verses, so we were gonna put that in an appendix in our free time. Okay.
Do you want to try this with almond?
Oh,
No, thanks.
I'll pass. I'll take this old cold one.
This happened.
Okay, now. So my proposal is Nick goes through the 10 that Gyaltsab J gave. Gyaltsab J promised two things in section 139. This is why sections are useful. We numbered it like the Bible. We numbered that. Every translation's getting numbered. So you can say, I don't agree with section 146. Something stupid there. So quick go to section 139.
From there.
And then teach us from there. What's he say?
You want to read the English?
No, I mean, tell us what it is.
Okay, he's enumerating the differences.
And then,
according to him, and then he's going to identify which are actually correct.
yes, he's going to tell the differences, or reported differences about the middle way school, and then he's going to comment on them.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just go over that as a review.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
I was pretty confused on it.
It is confusing,
Yeah.
okay?
And it's Gyaltsab J on top of that.
The first one,
Whether or
section 141.
not, whether or not they accept, in general, the idea of an assertion which is independent, meaning a rangu. Do they accept
Kitense.
independent reasons?
Yeah.
rangu
Now the
kitense.
lower middle way school's name
Right.
is independent school. Why?
This
They
is what-
accept independent.
because they accept.
They accept a thing, they accept a mode of reasoning called independent reasoning.
Mhm.
Right.
Roughly, how would you describe it?
I would
So
say,
a reason
when
that
I say to you, let's consider a duck, that I think you and I have the same image.
That's a different one.
no, the reason itself has the
Self-power.
power. It has the
Yeah.
power to bring your mind to a higher state, and there's something in that reason that, from its own side, proves the assertion.
Yeah. Whether or not a reason is effective
Mhm.
doesn't depend on my karma. There are certain reasons which are so true, they don't depend on me.
This is
It's like the husband who's yelling at me, it wasn't my fault. Why does this reason work? It's not my fault. It's just true. 2 + 2, 4. It's just true. It's not coming from me. 4 is not, 2 + 2 is not 4 because of my perceptions. It just is. And certain reasons are so good that they are independent. They don't depend on the beholder. They don't depend on the beholder.
Cause and effect is opposites.
Yeah.
It's almost like saying truth is truth no matter who's looking at it. You see, and it's an attractive idea, and that goes along with the 50-50
A lot
idea.
of that in Western
Truth.
philosophy.
Truth is truth. It don't matter if you had coffee or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's-
Okay, so they call that an independent reason. It has its own power to prove what it's trying to prove, no matter how stupid the person looking at it is, and no matter what their karmic seeds are.
Mhm.
Okay.
Rangu kitense.
And now explain why the higher school is called consequence.
Oh, so the higher school is called consequence. First of all, they don't accept those, and they believe that you can be shown the truth based on the way that you understand or the way that a sarcastic statement is presented to you, which shows you the consequences of the absurd consequence of your own ridiculous thinking.
All fruits are red.
What about bananas?
Yeah. No.
Bananas
Give me a tengya.
Yeah, so I guess a banana. I guess an orange is red.
Well, I would use a banana.
All right, I guess a banana. Well, an orange is even weirder.
By the way, you don't say it. You never say it in a combative way. You always say it in sort of a like.
You certainly sometimes say that way.
Fruits are red. Bananas are red. It's just like this sarcastic thing. It's never like, what are you, fool? Is bananas are red? No, it's not like that. It's like,
At Diamond Mountain, we
Often
did.
though.
Yeah, we
quite
usually
it's like
did.
this. I mean, a true Prasangika, a true Tengya, is a, wow, so bananas are red. Okay, and that's all. And according to the higher school, that's enough to lead someone to emptiness.
In India, bananas are red.
According to the next lower half of the middle way school, it's not enough. You have to say, look, idiot, take a banana. It's not red, therefore, not all fruits are red.
Yeah,
You know, and you have to go through each step. According to the highest school of Buddhism, which all Tantra also follows, it's enough to say, wow, so bananas are red. And that's all.
Drop the
You
mic.
don't like beat it into the guy. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay? And that's why the highest school of middle way is called Prasangika, which means absurd
Absurd.
By
consequence of your statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, proof by absurdity. Okay. She must use it a lot at home. Okay.
She gets it.
All right. Okay.
Unfortunately.
So the very first difference between the two schools, or I mean, he just calls it concepts which the two schools discuss. They're two groups. We call them groups, okay, from now on. We don't call them schools. They're not schools, they're subgroups. Okay. First one, do you accept that a reason can have its own efficacy, its own power, or not? That's the first one. Second one, go.
Whether or not they accept such a reason in the context of examining emptiness.
Yeah, like specifically, can you see emptiness with such a kind of a reason, which has its own independent power to prove something, okay? Independent of your karmic seeds. Third one.
Do they accept or not the idea of an accurate perception engendered by the basic nature of a reason?
Lopatov Shukit, okay?
This is
The
like
power of the
What's sema?
valid perception, correct perception.
Accurate. I like that. Let's call it accurate.
Okay. Accurate
If
perception.
someone, so direct perception is obviously accurate. You know, you see blue. Authority is accurate. You know, if the Buddha says, if a Swiss banker jumps out the window, jump. Don't, they say, you know, if you're on the 10th floor and a Swiss banker jumps out, just jump. Don't talk. Don't think about anything. You know, it's called authority, scriptural authority, right? And then there's one called, there's a minor one called convention, which means
A rabbit in the moon.
a lemon. If you say this car's a real lemon, in America it means it's a bad, it doesn't work well. But everybody knows you're not talking about the fruit. But the last one is logic, is the results of logic, can that be on the same level as your eyes?
Yes.
But they say no.
Mine don't.
No, lower middle way. You know, or okay, it's a debate about that. Okay, can you trust your third eye reasoning as well as you can trust your physical eyes? Okay. All right. Next one.
Do they or do they not profess that the person who initiates an argument and their opponent can ever be perceiving the same object under consideration in a compatible way? Then the two people in a debate, can they really agree that they see the same thing in the same way?
If banana doesn't mean the same thing to me that it means to him, can he use banana as a counter example?
And especially if I say banana and I think the bananas are self-existent and you don't.
Exactly. And the famous example is with the non-Buddhist school that believes the sound of Om
Right.
is eternal. Which school?
I mean, probably we got a few, but
Yo.
What does it mean, Mums? I don't know. Anyway,
we're at the Shabda Brahman.
and then the first great use of Buddhist logic in history was in a debate with those guys. And the Buddha said, "Dachicha mitate chepicha." Okay? Things are changing. Things are impermanent because they're changing, or because they have a cause. So, when the Buddha gave that argument to the Om guys, and he said, "Take sound," already is there a disconnect?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because one of the rules of an example, take sound, is that both parties have to agree what's a sound. If sound means fish to you, and sound means something you hear to me, we can't choose it as a something we're going to argue about. But in a way, if they're arguing, they never see the thing the same. Anyway,
Yeah.
so that's what this one's about. Tunnang means if they
Does it appear?
do two opponents in a debate ever see the example as the same thing.
Only if you take on my meaning of the word temporarily.
Well, we're going to debate it. Next, number
It
5.
says here, do they or not have the same assert a position, or do they have a position which they themselves support? Meaning,
Yeah.
do they take any position?
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about yet.
I think he's talking about how Prasangika tends not to assert any position, and they just negate everybody else's.
So
That comes later.
Don't you?
Uh,
just assume-
I think there's a debate, and we'll get to it, at the end of the 3 principal paths. Mikpe teso kayen kushigna. Mikpe teso kayen kushigna. If all the ways you regard things fall apart, then you got there. Tsongkhapa says, if all the ways you see things fall apart, you got there. So then people responded to his line and said, well, that means you have no position at all, right? You don't have a position, and that's your position. Okay, I believe it regards to that. Okay, next.
Pretty zen.
Yeah,
Do they or do they not have a position which depends on exclusion?
yeah, and that goes to your text. His text so far has been a frustrating
Double pancake.
mixture of we call it pancake flips. In his school, which is the second Buddhist school, and he's 200 pages into it, and it's like, it's sweet, but it's a thing is the opposite of all that it's not. So take all the things in the universe that aren't John Foley, reverse it, and that's what John Foley is. Okay, that's called Yongchu. Okay, so is that use of? We don't know what he's talking about yet, but somehow the two middle way schools have differences in the way they view this opinion.
Do the Spa Tantrikas use that, right? Where a thing is the opposite of everything that it's not.
Well, the famous school is the second one, who
Yeah.
likes it.
But for some reason I thought it came up in translator class at Down and Mountain.
Well, is this definitely between the two schools? Yeah, because sometimes it's just a list of what makes the Prasangika special without being something
Between the two.
between them. But I think he's framed it as something between them.
Yeah.
We need more information. Okay, 7.
Do they or do they not accept the idea of refuting an opponent's position without establishing one's own?
Cool.
Good.
Which kind of relates to
Yeah.
what we said before.
Yeah.
And number 8.
Is it enough just to prove somebody else wrong without proving yourself right?
It seems
Okay.
that the Prasangikas do think that way. That they accept. Do they or do they not accept an assertion which is a logical proof based on demonstrating an absurdity? Tamgir. That's the
Yeah, there's a difference in how they feel about absurd statements. How strong isn't it? How strong is, oh, I guess a banana's red? Is it enough to prove that all fruits are not red? Okay. Number 9.
Do they or do they not accept the idea that a Buddha can possess wisdom within their mind stream?
Good. Yeah.
And I guess
Some
this-
people say they go beyond all states of mind. So, okay. And
Do they or do they not accept the idea of apperception, the mind's ability to perceive itself within a single instant?
okay.
This kind of relates to the mind-only text. Everything.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, let's keep going. Okay. Now let me see something. Let's just go. Now let's start on your text. Okay. Well, you wanna
Whoa. In this.
out of those 10, he likes some of them and he doesn't like some of them. Okay.
Can you scroll down a little bit in the version that you're looking at? Ying. We can go back up a little more to 152 in English. Yeah. I think we missed a few letters there.
That's weird.
Yep. Ying, there is some saying?
I must have erased it by accident or something.
Probably saying, right? Saying.
So also paragraph 3, which is a little strange.
Sorry?
Can you repeat the 10th one?
It's saying, okay.
Yeah.
It was
that's what I
saying.
figured. The 10th one is whether or not they accept apperception, the mind's ability to perceive itself in a single moment. Thank you.
Yeah, it's saying, okay.
Yeah, I thought so.
Why is it doing this?
This is just window dressing. This
Yeah, okay.
Windows dressing?
this definitely confused me. These points.
Is that what it says? Windows?
No, it doesn't say window.
Okay.
It says pretty thing. Zepa.
No, I mean in English. Did it say
Window dressing.
No.
No.
Good. Okay. Good.
Okay, let's do the first one. And his book is hard. I'm sorry, it's just hard. And Gyaltsab J is hard, and he's not clear, and he makes huge leaps of. We in the winter inter-monastic debates, we will debate one page of Gyaltsab J every day for 12 hours for a month, and not get to the bottom of it. He's unbelievable. And there are Western scholars who think he's crazy, but he's just deep. Okay. Anyway, so the last two, which are what? Does a Buddha have any wisdom in their mind? And can the mind perceive itself at the same moment? And there are two famous metaphors in that argument.
Yeah. There's a sword cutting itself.
Can a knife cut itself? And?
Does a light illuminate itself?
That's kind of one, but the more famous one is, can a man ride on his own shoulders? Which, people have tried just to prove it.
Probably find it.
So I mean,
You probably can.
the higher school says these are not, it cannot. There's always a time gap between the perceiver and the perceived, okay? Something like that, okay? So, now Gyaltsab J has promised to go through and comment on how he feels about these 10 proposed differences between the two schools. Okay? So here we go. I'm just going to get us there.
Beautiful.
The last two, which concern the mind's ability to perceive itself in a single moment, which is kind of tied up in the witness mind that hears our thoughts. Is there a time gap or not? And then this, does a Buddha have wisdom? He says, these are boiled down to Bawa Long Me. Okay?
Right, I was very confused about
Bawa
that.
Long Me. And I couldn't find it anywhere. And a lot of times, Gyaltsab J, who was famous before he met Tsongkhapa, is talking about arguments he's had with people, you know,
Over the years.
in Lhasa last week. You know, like he's like, that old man on his shoulders thing. And then we have to figure out what's man on his shoulders thing. And he doesn't explain it. So my theory, and I don't think anyone's going to come up with anything better. Yeah, I think it's a criticism of the two separately. Bawa means hidden,
Right.
and Long Me means not enough time.
Right.
So I think Long Me refers to apperception, which is to say there's not enough time for the mind to see itself.
Huh.
It's got to take at least 2 seconds. And therefore I take the hidden to be, we may not be able to see a Buddha's wisdom, but we can assume it's there. It's hidden. So I have a new theory on this line.
Right.
It just came to me, you know, and I think Bawa Long Me was an expression in the debate ground in his time. You know, like hidden and there ain't time enough. It's hidden and there's not enough time. And there were two answers to those two, because he says Chimanyi. He says as regards the last two.
Right.
I think he's splitting and he's hitting the two, okay? Unfortunately, Ba by itself can be from Kentucky. Okay? So there's people called Ba John Foley or something. It means John Foley from Kentucky. So there's a little area in Tibet called Ba, and sometimes it comes before the person's personal name.
Wow.
And so it's like Ba Nick Lashaw. Okay? But I don't think it's this, because Bawa is definitely an adjective. Okay? But I'm just saying, you know, 50 years from now, they may find in the database that this was a guy's name. Okay, so I made the footnote enough to cover our rear ends.
Okay.
I said there is an outside chance that it refers to some ancient author. Then they won't call us fools, they'll just say we didn't know.
Can I ask you a question about
Yeah.
footnoting here? I noticed that even though you were footnoting those ideas, you put it at the end of the sentence. Sometimes I've been putting mine in the sentence, like at.
Yeah, it's
We
okay.
don't have a definitive.
It's not a big difference. I would say if there's a good chance that the reader will stall before he hits the end of the sentence,
Mm-hmm.
put the footnote in the middle.
In the middle. Okay.
But if there's a good chance that they understand the words hidden and insufficient time, like those are not so weird that they're going to stop. The reader's not going to stop. So then put it at the end because it's out of the way. A footnote in the middle of a sentence is definitely distracting.
Oh, okay.
You know, but if it had said statement of absurdity or something,
Right.
something that nobody knows,
Right.
you know,
Purple elephant argument.
detailless.
If there are multiple items in a sentence,
Yeah.
would you put two numbers in there or cover them both with the number?
Yeah, I prefer a single footnote. I think more than one footnote in a sentence is brutal on the reader. So you got to think that the reader's tired, they just got home from work, they went in the bathroom, that's the only time they have to study Buddhist books.
Waiting
And,
table all night.
and you've got 12 footnotes in one sentence. They're going to like shut it and open their surfer magazine, which is what I do. Okay, so just keep in mind, everyone else is as tired as you are. So make it easy for them, or they're not going to read your book. And as I mentioned before, I'm aware of Buddhist books that were translated in my lifetime and are already out of print. Nobody bought them, and they're out of print. I don't want your books to go that way. By the way, we have to choose a cover design for the 108 books. And Shintian and Sugang have some proposals, so they're going to email them to everybody. How's that? Okay, yeah, because it's not my set, it's everybody's set. So I think we should decide as a group what's the cover going to look like for 108 books, okay? Because you're going to be stuck with it for quite a few years. At the rate we're going, especially. By the way, we did finish our first book. It's in the Chinese Translation Bureau's hands. It's perfect. It's done. It's 499 pages in the English. So we're getting there.
Halfway done in Spanish.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay. So here we go. And I gave a lecture yesterday about how all the books tie together, and you should memorize it. I mean, you guys should be able to spit that back. There's a reason why we chose the 16 books we're working on right now. And it's kind of extremely elegant, and it covers all of Buddhism. Between you guys, if you guys survive, you can translate any Buddhist book because you are covering the 16 great topics of like Geshes and Tantra. Okay, so if you can all learn your own book, we got it covered forever. That's the design of this track, of this program. Yeah, we spread it out historically, all the schools. So if everyone here does their job, there's nothing you cannot translate without me. Okay, kind of cool. Okay, it's built like that. If one person quits, you're in trouble. No pressure. No, because if he quits, for example, there's no logic, and his language is extremely difficult. Okay.
So you're stuck in that genre.
Well, no, until you finish your book, and then we'll switch it up. Because obviously, if two people understand the genre, it's better. Okay. Next.
You were teaching what we've done so far.
Saying there's some discerning matter. Yeah. Now you can get into some. You can get into some worthless argument about whether there's a difference between the two parts of the middle way school about mind and matter. You know, whether or not they actually took those positions. You're just trying to look cute, and I'm not going there.
Does that relate to anything in those 10 that we listed?
I don't know.
Because I didn't.
It
understand
must.
The connection. Yeah.
It must, or maybe he's just making a side comment because unfortunately he doesn't go in any great order.
Yeah, there's not.
He just throws out comments.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, number 6 and 7 are also, those are wrong.
Cool.
Okay. In my list, 6 and 7 are wrong. Okay.
Yeah. What does he mean they're wrong? Like those don't belong in the list of differences?
They don't belong in the list.
Uh-huh.
They are proposed differences, but they're not valid.
Okay.
Not a basis on which you distinguish
Yeah.
between the two schools.
Right.
Well, we would
Because
not like a curveball.
because the consequences do say it fits their school, and the independents would agree to it also.
Right.
So it's not a difference.
Cool.
Strange
Okay.
that he put it in his list. But I guess,
Yeah.
He's proposing ideas on the distinction.
Yeah.
right. I guess
Pretty
that's
cool.
what he's doing.
Pretty subtle.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then he goes off on Baba Viveka.
right.
Okay.
No, in
He's
a
kind of a
nice
tall
way.
guy, right? Yeah, it takes a lot of gut.
He does.
Since Chandra could do.
Then he talks about, do two debaters ever see the example the same anyway? If we're going to debate, if you're a Hindu who believes that Om is eternal, and I'm a Buddhist who believes that it's destroyed moment by moment, then, and I say, well, let's consider sound. Then he addresses that, do they ever see the same thing? So if you can't see the same thing, how can you have an argument about it? If I point to this and you see a fish, and I see a skyscraper, how can we discuss it? There's got to be some overlap of how we think about it. What would you say offhand? I'm curious.
I mean, so by the way, then the one that I mistakenly attributed that quality
Right.
to, he's saying is the key,
Right,
right,
okay.
to understanding it, right?
That's true.
Which is that when I say consider a duck, if you're thinking of a self-existent duck, then, if I want to prove emptiness to you, right, and I say duck, and you're thinking of a self-existent duck, and I'm thinking of an empty duck, then we don't share the same thing. So instead, what Nagarjuna does is when he says consider duck, he's assuming you're self-existent duck, and then he's just going to say it doesn't exist, which is a Prasangika.
What do you guys think?
Well,
Can I have an argument about a banana? If I think all bananas are red, and you think all bananas are yellow, does it ever make any sense to say, let's talk about bananas?
It never makes any sense anyway because it only comes from karma, regardless.
But don't go that far.
Yeah, you can't go there.
Can we talk about bananas?
Just koans.
Can we talk about bananas?
If you want, I think generally you can. I think in a general sense you can. But I think you can about it.
Exactly. Okay, this is the point. When we have a debate with someone, let's say you're debating with your wife whether the Japanese restaurant is good or bad. Okay? That's a typical debate. I had it with V the other night about El Patio. Guess who said the food was bad there? So when I say, well, let's talk about El Patio restaurant, I think it's bad for these reasons. You think it's good for these reasons, okay? But can you even say, is there an El Patio restaurant to talk about
Well, in that sense,
that
yeah.
you can both relate to?
Generally, as long as there's something that you can agree on that exists.
Yeah,
Yes.
divorce it from what you disagree.
Right.
Is there a building called El Patio
Right.
and they serve Mexican food there?
Right. Yeah. Of course. Then. Yeah.
Are we agree on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now let's talk about whether the food's good or bad. So if you can divorce, talking about, is it possible for her and I to talk about El Patio restaurant if she's already thinking they have good food and I'm already thinking they have bad food? Is there an El Patio restaurant independent of good or bad food? Yeah, there's a place, they serve food, you pay money, okay? So that's the way that argument comes down to. Divorce it from the thing you don't agree. There is sound atoms banging into each other, and whether they're eternal or impermanent, let's talk about it. But we all agree there's something here, right? Okay, got it? So there's some overlap on how you see the thing you're talking about.
I think he's going to say, though, that when the subject in question is the nature of that object,
Yeah.
that they can't agree. That
Well,
it's not-
it has a nature.
We'll see.
Okay, anyway. Okay. What does he say here?
I predict he's going to say that it's not shared if they see.
In the final analysis, the entire question of whether an independent provision is okay, good. Yeah. Whether or not Rangyupas are valid boils down to, can you see the same thing? Okay. All right, we're ready to start your class.
Whoa.
Is people cold? Should we turn
I'm
it
a little
down?
bit freezing.
Can we warm it up a bit?
No such thing.
It's a trick to keep people awake. Let's go. I confess, as I already confessed a few times, but I feel bad about it. I did not have time to prepare for your class. So, I'll do the best I can. Let's go.
Okay. Ngupo top shuk sheba, yang ngupo rang tsenpa kelen pai la serna yang mi te de te, lopun leknden je ki kyang kak bei cheer.
Okay, tell us about Ngopo Topshu.
Well, this is reasoning with its power. So by the power of reasoning, or I guess you could say logical proof.
Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah.
It's almost a synonym for logic itself.
Yeah.
Break it down.
Ngupo, thing, top,
Good.
power,
Good.
shuk,
This shuk means resides.
stay in it.
Resides, yeah. A power resides in the thing. And this is about the idea that a reason that you give can trigger an understanding in another person's mind. That we're not debating. But was it in there from its own side? Who wrote the Diamond Cutter Sutra? You did, okay. You see what I mean? But is it valid? Does it work? Yeah, if you study it, you can get to see emptiness directly. Who wrote it?
You did.
You did. Okay, that's all. There's a disagreement about where the power comes from, but there's no disagreement about does it have power. Reasons have power. You know, if you try to prove that they don't, you're already using the power of a reason.
That came just a few paragraphs.
Yeah. People who try to convince you that logic is stupid always use logic.
Yeah.
It's very funny, and if you're a real logician, you're just going, "Oh man, yeah, okay, you convinced me. Yeah, all the reasons you gave me, why reasons are stupid, they prove it definitely." You know? Okay, so we go for top shuk shepa, and what do we say about shuk?
What that it means to stay beside within.
There's a common other spelling of it.
Oh,
Shuk.
oh.
Shuk.
S-H.
Not shuk.
Like Kali Shuk.
Shuk.
No,
I thought
that's
this was kinda
shuk.
shuk. Yeah.
Shuk means power, right? Shuk.
Shuk.
Oh,
Shungden.
shukden. Yeah.
Shungden.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
that's
shuk means
an hour
power,
ago.
okay? And most people spell this with an SH,
Yeah.
But
Okay.
top is already that, right? That would just be
right? But he keeps repeating ZH. So obviously, the greatest logician Tibet has ever seen has felt it was Z. But I just tell you, you run me a number. We have a search program. We can check 1,000,000 pages and see how many people spelled it.
Shuk versus
You want to compare them?
top shuk and top.
Give us a vote. We do this. We call it a vote.
I'm guessing it's with.
In the last 1,000 years,
Where are we getting?
Which was spelled more?
well, Sungam.
Ngopo Top Shuk spelled either way.
Oh,
Sumbum. It won't be in the Tengyur. Much.
So which way are you gonna do?
Who's doing ZH? Who's doing SH?
I'll take Z.
Okay,
You take S.
I'm doing Z.
tell me when you're pushing the button.
The search. They're searching over 1,000,000 pages.
Right?
Ngopo top shuk. Ngopo top.
Okay.
What's the number?
We have to have the same
Did you
thing.
just do S?
I did ZH.
Okay, then I'm doing S.
See, I must have spelled something wrong because I got 0 hits.
Somebody do it with Z and somebody do it with S.
I
It's
did.
kind
I
of
spelled
simple.
it right and I got nothing.
Come on.
Alright,
How
I'm gonna do
strange.
his also.
You're in the
I got
wrong.
one
You're searching the wrong
Yeah,
thing.
it's got to be, huh?
You're searching the wrong
At
thing.
least this text is.
Search
there.
the symbol.
Yeah, that's what I was searching.
I've got 15 for Shuk.
Really?
15 for sheep?
For S?
One.
I got none for Z.
This is not.
Try
both
PO
searching
apostrophe I.
that we're getting different
I just wrote
results.
Topshuk. STOBS.
Oh, really?
GS, yeah. And I searched the Sunboom and I got no hits.
69 sheep.
Well,
Oh, but I guess I did something wrong.
She got 69?
Shoot.
How many shuks you got?
I got more
I got
Shuks
one.
coming in. I
Oh,
got
I see what I did
118
wrong.
for our,
Z.
our author, Dessa J.
And how many for S?
15.
Oh, okay. By the way, he was such a defender of this concept
Yeah.
that there's a very common grace in the monastery. Kanchen Kepi Tsukyen Tsongkapa. Muto
yeah.
Prikpe Wanchu Gyaltsa Je.
Yeah.
You are the emperor of this form of reasoning.
Yeah.
That's his nickname. So,
Well, he's got
yeah.
pretty good spelling, too, apparently.
Yeah, anyway, I like the other one. Okay. But I lost. I lost the statistical. It was 15 to 120, right?
123. Yeah.
Okay, so there was some serious. At least 15 people agree with me. Okay. When you lose, you can look at it that way.
Geshe Michael.
Yeah. Okay, so this expression, the power of the thing, okay, Shugyang, Ngoporang Semba Kelamba La Serna. If you say it's talking about what?
Independent reasons.
Now, difficult here, but Ngoporang Semba,
People who
you can take Rang Semba here to mean Ngopo in its usual sense.
existing thing, yeah, functioning thing.
Functioning thing, right?
Yeah.
Dunchenupa,
Right.
defined as Dunchenupa, that which can perform a
Function.
function. Okay? He says, Kelemba la Serna. You can say that the Ngopo in Ngopo Topshuk refers only to
Function.
its limited sense in the literature as functioning thing.
Cool.
What's the Sanskrit?
Oh.
Oh,
We were talking about this recently.
Bhava,
Yeah.
Bhava, which means thing. And then over the years, it came to mean the smaller class called things that do something. Now, he's making a comment. Gyaltsab is making a comment. Rang tsemba kelemba la serna. If you take this to be ngumpo, and in its sense as working thing, functioning thing, mite.
It's not correct.
Yeah, you're wrong. That's not what the ngopo and ngopo topshuk means. Okay? Which means, it just means thing in general.
Right.
Which means that it can include,
Unchanging things.
good, as such as
Empty space. Or
empty space or emptiness or facts.
Facts.
Okay, good. Okay, got it? So what he's really saying here, in my opinion, and it's hard, is that if you use space as a reason,
yeah.
or emptiness as a reason, even though it's not a ngopo, it's a ngopo tupshuki rikpa.
Okay.
Okay, got it? It is the class of reasoning that we call deduction or logic, which in Tibetan involves the word ngopo. But in this case, ngopo doesn't mean working thing, because you can plug in anything there. So he says, I want to use bhava in its older meaning as all stuff, all stuff. Every word has a power. Okay, got it?
Time's up.
Wow,
If you say it only applies to ngopo in its normal sense, rang tsemba, okay? In its normal sense, if you claim that, you are mite.
You're incorrect.
Why? What does he give as a reason?
That Baba Viveka himself denies.
That idea,
Yeah.
Well,
okay?
who, like,
That's
on
interesting.
other days he's happy to criticize anyway.
Yeah, right.
He was right about something.
But even Baba Viveka denied that.
Sure.
Even Baba.
Oh, even Bobby Vivek.
Kyang.
Yeah, Kyan.
Right.
Kyang.
Yeah, got it.
Why does he say even Baba
Because
Viveka?
he's lower middle way. He's the quintessential lower middle way.
He's the mother of the lower middle way.
Yeah.
If this is supposed to be a difference between the higher and middle way,
Right.
and he himself denies it,
Yeah.
come on,
Right.
give me a break.
Yeah.
Okay, got it?
Really good.
Okay.
We got through a
I
line.
got through that class. I really pulled that off. I only did one line.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's fine.
I'll work harder on it, I promise.
We will work hard on it. Whatever.
No, I totally ran out of time. The manual is 660 pages for
And
the class
growing.
downstairs. I just ran out of time. And I didn't stop. I just worked. Yeah. I didn't stop
I
at
know.
all. Anyway, I don't know what we can do about that. You'll have to translate. You'll have to pro high performance.
We're gonna have to learn Tibetan, I guess. Yeah.
We need some high performance here. It'd be interesting. You going to talk about high performance?
A little bit.
Because it would be useful for this group,
Okay.
much less the people downstairs. This group is got to translate 10,000 books. So,
In a week.
no. I told you had 10 days. No, but what I'm saying is the idea of high performance is not irrelevant to you. So maybe you want to talk to us about it separately. I don't know. But the idea that you could go to 18 inches from a mile. Can you drastically improve your performance rate in this room? Not downstairs. You see, they're trying to convince people of world-saving ideas. You know, we're trying to get them out of, squeeze them out of these Tibetan books. You know? Like, are there ways to jack up your performance? I believe it's one of those things that if you pay attention to jacking it up, you jack it up. Yeah, just deciding to talk about it makes your performance better. So maybe you're leaving tomorrow night, right?
Monday, but I'm back.
Oh, okay.
And then we have a break Thursday, Friday,
That's right.
but then Saturday, Sunday I'm here next week.
So maybe you guys set a time. I mean, just for half an hour, 45 minutes. Talk to us about performance.
One of our classes.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
If someone does give up a class, I'll replace it at the end.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
It'd be
Cool.
interesting just to hear his.
Absolutely.
Well, if you want tomorrow too, I'm speaking from. I'm not even sure how to look at it, but I think it's 3 to
You're 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
Oh.
Yeah, because I invited a bunch of people.
So yeah, downstairs, and definitely sit through that. I'm gonna teach there how to get the idea across. So how to teach a teacher kind of idea, right? But it will be this high performance idea.
Cool.
So really cool. Yeah, definitely.
Do we
And
need to
then-
see the video?
and I
If you can get in 45 minutes here,
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
Same
because we have a different issue.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean,
I got
we have to do thousands and thousands of pages. The carvings are broken. Nobody knows what the damn thing means. You know.
That's true. They are.
No, I mean, how would you increase the performance of the people in this room?
I will.
Just as a metaphor to your Blue Angels performance, your usual talk would be useful here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. Shall we?
Yeah.
Sashi.
Puki Jushi Metong Tram Riram Lingshin Yende Gempadi Sangye Shingdu Mingte Uargi Jokun Namda Shingma Chuparsho Inam Guru Rana Mandala Kanya Dayami
Kewa.
Di Keokun Sunam Yeshe Sok Sok Shing Sunam Yeshe Le Chung Wei Dampa Kunyi Tobar Sho. Be interesting to go find Baba Viveka